So we will talk about tone, mood, and imagery in To Be or Not to Be. Now, the tone was inspired by an opinion essay written by this guy, Jonathan Swift, and it was called A Modest Proposal. And this was written in 1729, and it was in response to the treatment of the Irish people at the hands of the British colonial rulers. And I highlighted some passages, okay? So tell me if this doesn't have a similar tone to Be or Not to Be. These mothers, instead being able to work for their honest livelihood, are forced to employ all their time in strolling to beg sustenance for their helpless infants, who, as they grow up, either turn thieves for want or leave their dear native country to fight for the pretender in Spain, or sell themselves to the Barbados. That would be in the Caribbean, which the British also had colonized and were owning. As to my own part, having turned my thoughts upon this important subject and matured several schemes. Okay, so he's going to go through all of these different ways to fix the problem, but they're all super messed up. So he's saying the only remnants 120,000 children or poor parents annually born. The question, therefore, is how this number shall be reared and provided for. For we can neither employ them in handicraft or agriculture. We build houses, I mean the country, nor cultivate land. They can very seldom pick up livelihood by stealing till they arrive at 6 years old, except where they are cowardly parts, although I confess they learn rudiments early. Basically, it's super insulting to the children. Wait a minute. Then he's saying that they can eat them. I have assured by a very knowing American of my acquaintance in London that a young, healthy child, well nursed, is at a year old a most delicious, nourishing, and a wholesome food, whether stewed, roast, baked, or boiled. So basically, his solution to the Irish famine that was brought on by the British taking all their making the Irish export their food for British wars and nonsense. This would have been him saying that they should just eat their children. Um, and obviously, that is a horrific thing to say, and it is quite a similar tone to Dr. Hitz. Are you crazy? Of course, someone in your family has to die. Of course, either someone dies or your infant doesn't leave the hospital because we're going to kill them here at the hospital in a gas chamber. Like, this is kind of the solution to overpopulation in To Be or Not to Be is suicide, right? So we could say both both Vonnegut and Swift's use satire to draw their readers to a central idea. And I'm not going to get into it yet. But anyway, so that would be our tone. It's satirical, bizarre, shocking, dark humor, you could say. Um, we had said another one, wait, and then it goes on. If you wanted to read this, it's in your active reading. Some persons of a desponding spirit are in great concern about the vast number of poor people who are aged, diseased, or maimed, and I have been desired to employ my thoughts what course may be taken to ease the nation of so grievous an encumbrance. But I am not in the least pain upon the matter, because it is very well known that they are every day dying and rotting by cold and famine and filth and vermin, as fast as can be reasonably expected, and to the young laborers they are now in a hopeful condition. This is almost saying, right, that like he is saying, um, Swift is pointing out that the British were conducting a form of population control on their Irish colony by starving the people and banning certain imports of life-saving necessities. Like, so when you think about like a sanction, for example, this would be modern day, but sanctions can ban certain like medicines or vaccines to a population. And if a country is mad at the leaders of another country, how does banning kidney dialysis equipment sanctioning medical supplies, how does that hurt the leaders, you could say? All right. So, anyways, that's similar tone. Now, if I go to mood, the mood is however we as the reader feel. So, me, I would say the mood of the story is shocking and we could say shocking and depressing. At the start of the story, I was intrigued by the utopian technology. However, my mood swiftly changed to disturbed when I found out that babies cannot leave the hospital unless the parents found a volunteer to die. So that would be my evidence. And then shocking maybe at the end, or even like vindicated. I guess it depends how you felt when your mood when Dr. Hitz kills, or when Edward kills Dr. Hitz. Um, if you felt happy, I guess you would, that was depressing because now that you have this mother, me as the mother, I could say the ending was especially horrifying because now I'm sitting in the hospital as Mrs. Willing with three triplets, and my husband is dead, and I don't even know if we don't even really know if they're going to be able to, if she's going to be able to take them home. Like, is it still illegal? Does it still count? Because technically, Edward did not get a receipt. So it could be even more depressing, the ending of this story, because we could maybe say that Mrs. Welling is not going to get to take any of her children home, or maybe just the one, because they had the one receipt from his grandfather or his maternal whatever. But so you could, however you felt here, or you could say your mood. Let's say you hated Dr. Hitz and his attitudes, and you were happy that Edward did this. Then you could say the ending felt I felt the mood was that of vindication because, wait, here, I'll put it here. Um, so this would be an example of different moods. I would say if you liked the ending, the ending of the story's mood was that of vindication because Dr. Hitz and Leora were executed for their roles in infanticide and assisted suicide. Even though I guess the people volunteer, but do they really want to? How much pressuring is going on? We don't know. So this is an example of how you can change the mood based on how you as a reader felt, right? Now we have our imagery. The song. At the start of it, the guy was singing a song. That is imagery. You can hear the orderly. Okay. The reader can hear the orderly humming a song and see the painter working on the mural. And then there is mention of the color purple several times to as this is a symbolic color representing royalty and power. All right, that's some imagery. Let's see. Their conversation, the painter thumbed his nose. You could say the orderly laughing and this conversation with the waiting father mumbling. And then in comes Leora, right? Wait, let's do imagery for her. Okay, she's described as having a mustache, which you could say is a feminist theory. This is Von Guts joking around. Oh, haha, it's a woman with a mustache. My story's funny. But that's besides the point. That's a theory you could use that he's a misogynist, the author. But we can say here imagery is you can see her facial hair and hear the conversations. All right, wait. Vanga uses imagery to describe, to introduce Leora Duncan. She is described as having spiked heels and a mustache. And then we can say her entrance interrupts the orderly and painter's conversation, as well as the moping Edward, who is described as slumped in his chair. This is a really long sentence, but okay. So that would be your imagery. Anything we can hear, conversations, a lot of them, and then things we can see. The mural, definitely, obviously, and the painter spilling on it. The conversation, not too much imagery between the conversation between Dr. Hitson, Leora, and Edward. We could say this, you can hear the gunshot, but you don't hear anything. Nobody came running. Nobody seemingly heard the shots. So you could say the climax of the story is an example of imagery because the reader sees Edward take out the revolver and and two gunshots are heard. We have there's room for more. Then he's shot again. Gunshots along with his final it's only death. There, room for two. Edward takes a revolver and kills Leora and Dr. Hitz. The reader can hear him saying there, or it's only death. It's only death. It's only death. There, room for two. There, room for two. And that would be our imagery. Well, and then after he takes his own life, the reader sees an empty hallway or an empty hospital waiting room and hears nothing but silence. So there's imagery, and that's how you talk about it. What you hear, what you smell. There was no smell, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, so that would be mood, tone, and imagery.